exciting to have you all here. My name is Radha, and I'm in the 10th grade at Harker here in Silicon Valley. And I'm really passionate about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So I actually built a platform to spread awareness about it called SDG Forum. And my co-host for today is Janani.
Hi, I'm Janani, and I go to the International School Bangalore, and I'll be in ninth grade soon. So I'm also really passionate about climate change as well, and I built an extension called Footprints, which helps you track your carbon footprints on your commutes, whether it's your daily commutes, from to work or school, or whether you're taking a flight across the world. Now I'd like to introduce our distinguished guest for today's session, Dr. Harish Hande. Harish Hande is an engineer and renewable energy entrepreneur with over 23 years of grassroots experience in meeting requirements of underserved communities. He heads the Salco Foundation, which currently provides sustainable solar power to more than 650,000 households in 6 Indian states. For his radical work in climate change advocacy, Dr. Hande was awarded Asia's premier prize and highest honor, the Ramon Magsaysay Award in 2011.
So Harish is a graduate from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and a master's and PhD from University of Massachusetts in the US. And he co-founded Selco in 1994 to 1995 after experiencing benefits of solar energy in rural areas of the Dominican Republic and Sri Lanka.
So Dr. Hande is recognized as a pioneer of rural energy service across the globe. He and his company have received many national and international awards, including the reputed Zayed Future Energy Prize in 2018 and the Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship in 2018.
So I'd actually like to share a personal story. So growing up, my dad talked a lot about SIMPA Network since he was an investor and board member, and he mentioned your company's contribution to SIMPA. So I've heard about your company, Selco. So it's great to meet you in person finally. And since recently, I've been looking for mentors in the climate change space and people who've made our planet more sustainable or better for everyone. And I really look up to you and what you've done. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Radha. Thank you. So, yes, Janani, tell. Okay, sorry.
So I was just thought I'd start by asking the first question. So what was it that really inspired you to start Selco?
First of all, let me thank you for inviting. Youngsters always make me very nervous, and the younger you are, you make me more nervous always, because whatever I do, for example, I'm accountable to you people, because you're going to ask me 10 years down the line, what did you guys do to leave the earth in such a space? Because for us, the main stakeholders are you people. And so you're actually my board, kind of grilling me that what are you leaving behind on earth for? So I'm always nervous from my generation point of view, from my generation to ask answer to the future, who's people whom unfortunately we are leaving a space, which is what you have to mop up after what we do. So anyway, so coming back on a positive note is you have a choice, and I think what happened many years ago was I think the education background that I had got in India was more elitistic. And in terms of, yes, I went to Indian Institute of Technology. That's because 300 million Indians did not write that exam. If they had written that exam, I would not have gone into IIT. So we are in a running race where we are at 50 meters and we say we won the race. And many of the poor are not running the race, and we are comparing ourselves to them, right? So it's an unfair world in many ways, right? I mean, all of us who will do a PhD on sugarcane will be called a doctorate of sugarcane, but a farmer doing 40 years of sugarcane will never be called a doctorate or an expert, because he has not studied, because he had to do the work. And so we are these false experts, right? Whoever has a doctorate, we are all false experts in many ways. So what inspired me was basically I had a chance to go, as Radha mentioned, got a chance to go to Dominican Republic. And this was in 91, doing my master's thesis, which was on large solar. And in Dominican Republic, I saw 10 farmers or 10 very poor people actually using solar and actually paying for it in a very small installments, what they saved from kerosene. And one Martinez, a farmer, who basically told me that he took me into his house and switched off the light 3 times and switched it on, said, do you know how it runs? It runs using solar. Nobody else can control it, only me. Utility cannot switch it off. I can switch it off. So I have learned it. Do you know where I learned it from? He said, from India. He said, didn't Mahatma Gandhi tell you about decentralization? And then he said, I have a complaint against you Indians. And he said, whenever I meet Indians, you've become doctors, you've become engineers, you have helped the United States, you have helped Europe, everything else. But whenever I talk to an Indian, he always complains. This has not happened, that has not happened. Never takes the responsibility on oneself, said, I should be the person solving the problem, right? Where you guys have and for Dominican Republic, can only learn from India, not from America or Europe, because they're very developed, and India can show how poverty can be removed in a sustainable manner and in a decentralized fashion from your Gandhian principle. He telling me 10,000 miles sitting away from, and 2 years ago, he died at the age of 90 plus. But the issue is, then I came back to the US and told my professor that I don't want to do a PhD that will be on somebody's library and nobody will read anyhow after that. And I haven't felt what it meant to be without electricity. And I haven't felt what it actually means to suffer from climate negativities and change. So I went to Sri Lanka. And why I didn't go to India was because I wasn't sure whether the rural villagers would treat me the same way as somebody else. Because unfortunately, I had an education. Once you have an education, people don't treat you the same way. They put you a one step higher, which is unfortunate because it's a false paper degree against which we are all measured, right? Not against, we confuse between education and learning. And there I had 2 years, and then back in India for a year without electricity, overall 2 years without electricity, taught me what consumption was, what it actually means to live life, or what is water, how do you utilize water, why do people pay for what they pay for. And so I think, and then you realize that climate solutions, poverty solutions are all embedded in each other. So, and that's said, one is the injustice of humanity in terms of I got into IIT and many of my poor farmer kids don't get into IIT, and then we clap, we are from IIT. And then the injustice about that the climate is most of the brunt is faced by the poor, whether it's drought and floods. That led to the creation where it is.
Yeah, so that's really humble of you to call yourself a false expert. So did you have any personal experience with starting companies before you founded Selco?
Oh, I had no experience of starting anything, rather. So the question was, it was nothing, and absolutely nothing, in fact, because see, as you know, when we come from backgrounds in India, for example, first thing, the whole life you're taught how not to do risky stuff, right? Don't do that. Don't do this. Call me 150 times before you go there, etc., etc. Don't, it'll break. So I guess the question is, wanted to break that, saying that, boss, let's risk it. Who cares what it is? I mean, you fail and that's no. It was the first thing that you ventured out, and also there was nothing called I'm going to start something. It's first of all, I wanted to frankly speak, unlearn what I had learned in IIT, unlearn what I had learned in masters, and unlearn what I had learned in PhD, because those were some of my barriers, and which was stopping me from thinking all people were equal. It was stopping me from even saying that I need to be a good listener before formulating a solution in my mind. So I think that was what, and then you start putting the pieces of the puzzle, and then it is something. Yes, that's where it was. No experience, and I still don't have much experience. Don't worry. My other colleagues did the work, and I take the credit.
That's really bold of you to like break the norm. I think that's really admirable.
So is that what really pushed you to get into social entrepreneurship? Is that what really inspires you to do what you do?
See, one thing is that, yeah, because one thing we say that what is the concept of the social enterprises, right? We believe that one is enterprises, the others are anti-social enterprises, right? It should not be enterprises and social. It is social and anti-social, right? Why? That's so real enterprises should be making sure that they're part of the society. It cannot say, I'm not part of society when I go to office. When I'm looking at an organization, it should make sure that it's truly inclusive, and inclusive in a manner that people who are in the organization should not feel that they are at a disadvantage because they don't have a certain degree, or at an advantage that which background, religion, color that they come from, right? And so it's something that we basically formulated inside. Unfortunately, both Radha and Janani, we are known for solar, but our push is, how do you make an organization? I don't care whether you're a fourth grade dropout, a Hindi speaker, or you're an MIT grad. But you're going to be treated, your promotion, your salary levels are going to be how you're going to perform in terms of the end user's perspective. The end user, the poor, the street vendor, the farmer, the pottery maker are going to judge you whether you're actually being part of Selco or not. It's not what your resume actually says. And so for us, the social enterprises, we wanted to break the myths, and especially when you are in India, for example, or elsewhere, right? Who gets the money, Janani and Radha? It's like, who makes the best PowerPoint presentation, right? The question is, it's not a true Hindi speaker or a Kannada speaker or a Tamil speaker, right? It's about how articulate are you in English. I think we wanted to break that and say that and say how, and that is what we believe what would be an enterprise that is holistic in its thought process.
Right. So you define yourself as a social entrepreneur. So how is that different from working in an NGO?
See, I used to run the for-profit Selco for 20 years. And the way it was also formulated was, we have an organization of Selco for-profit, which is 600 people and 60 offices. And the way we have defined that structure, that journey, is that we don't have individual owners. And we have 3 not-for-profits owning the organization. And every year we take 20% of the profits for employees, but the least earning employee gets the first hit at the profit. So it's the bottom-up profit sharing, where the bottom 40% of the company gets the profits, not the top 60%. So if that is where it led to that our turnover of people, means the number of people who leave and join on a yearly basis, is less than 1%. Because the employees believe it's their organization. Why do I need to leave an organization? Because I'm frustrated or I see no growth, right? And we are saying, boss, it's your organization. If you're frustrated, tell us what to do. If you want to grow, how do you think the organization should grow? Use Selco as a train, and that's your platform. It's not and so that's where and then in 2014, I left Selco and joined the not-for-profit. But I tell you, Radha and Janani, my colleagues who run the organization, I have no clue where their education background is. I got all the awards that you mentioned because I speak English. But the work is because they did the work, right? They didn't get the awards because they didn't speak English. They should have got the award in the first place, not me. And the fact was, they run it. And frankly speaking, after 2014, the organization has done much better after I left. After I left Selco to join the foundation, the original organization is doing much better because it's truly in their hands that they're taking it forward. So I always joke with Thomas, who also left and joined the foundation in 2013, that we should have left earlier. Hopefully my colleagues in the foundation are also listening, and they might kick me out anytime and say that if you can leave, it will do better.
Wow, so that's really amazing. And you mentioned earlier about breaking some common myths about the people who work for you. You said it doesn't matter whether they speak English or Hindi or like their background. And so what are some other common myths that Selco has proven to be wrong?
See, when you come from especially in Indian perspective, we lack the respect for true human labor, right? Unlike in the US, you might have somebody as a student who's working on the roads one day and coming back and having your physics class, which is very different because of the class system that we have created, unfortunately. And then on top of the class system, we have created two other classes, right? Who speaks better English and what type of degree that you have. So we said we wanted to break that and say anybody who joins the organization can aspire to be the head of the organization, irrespective where he or she comes from. And so what we do is when people come in, we have an interview process which is not resume based, which basically says it's Radha and Janani, I cannot define what it is. It's just that the first question person who interviews and comes back that we ask is he or she Selco type? Tell me, how do you define a Selco type? I have no idea, right? It's like is he or she, does they have the passion to solve the issue of poverty and climate? Irrespective where you are, do you have the passion? Do you have the patience to do it? So we select that person, and then depending on the interest of the person, I don't care whether somebody has joined. I'll tell you example of Shankar, okay? Shankar joined the organization to clean the tables and serve coffee way back in 98. He is now head of Bangalore office. Okay. Mohan, my other colleague, who joined us and as office assistant in Kumta office, which is a small place in Udupi, he is now the CEO.
Wow.
Right. He's unfortunately more known in MIT and Yale rather than Indian universities, right? So Mohan Hegde, who is a brilliant Kannada speaker, if people refuse to speak after him because his purity of Kannada. So we wanted to say, but we really don't care where you come from, whether it's MIT or not, are you perform? So we also did we broke another, was that you might report to somebody who on a degree paper might be 10 times less so-called educated than you. And your salary levels will not depend on whether you're from Stanford, MIT or IIT. It doesn't matter. Or a 10th grader. Your salary matters according to how you perform. And so it was looked very romantically 20 years ago, but with 600 of us in the organization right now, it doesn't look it. And so those are something that we said, if you truly want to solve climate change, first, are we bringing in that inclusivity in our thought process?
Right. So yeah, that makes sense. So how we saw that you do a lot of work on the ground. So can you tell me more about that and like how you solve the issue of poverty and climate on the ground?
See, as I said, we have two entities. One is the foundation, and one is a for-profit, which is owned by three not-for-profits. But the foundation was created more in 2010. See, I mean, you're from the Bay Area, and you see the biggest subsidy, for example, Google got is the internet. Google didn't pay for the internet and makes money on something they didn't pay for, right? How do you create that so-called internet for the poor energy enterprises or the poor to avail energy access, right? And so what we do is a simple example being, if we are in and unfortunately what happens is we are 600 in the for-profit and 150 in the foundation, and out of the 750, Radha and Janani, 700 to 720 of them are my colleagues who come from the villages. Okay, they are part of the society themselves. So they're able to articulate the problem. Today, what happens typically is, we come up with a solution and then we fit a problem. Oh, I have this wonderful water filter. Now, where do I actually find a problem to it, right? So the question is, these guys actually own the problem. So we go in a certain village where we map out and say, what are the issues in health, education, and livelihoods? And where can energy actually play a role? So whether it's livelihoods, is it farm or non-farm? Is it, suppose we go to a cotton picker's place, how is the cotton picking happening from cotton picking to the sewing machine? What is that chain? And where can actually energy play a chain in every part of the chain? Are there technologies that are there to solve each part of the change. Is the sewing machine highly efficient? Is the cotton picking machine mostly, and can they run on solar, right? Not on diesel. The water pump that is required for pumping the field, how is it actually utilized? It's not only solar powering the water pump. Are they using the right amount of water? Because water is as precious as solar. Like you might use solar power, but you might inefficiently use water, for example, right? So that's also leading to climate change. Then in very drought areas, we also give them people to opt for, rather than growing paddy and sugarcane, can you actually grow millets, for example, right?
Right.
So then we look at, okay, what are the interventions? Say in a sewing machine, we have 10, 20, 30 men and women. We would do the whole training program. We would see how the latest solar powered sewing machine will actually work, help people get bank loans, then also see whether they have potential market linkages, or there are partners who are good in, like, you might have a brilliant solar powered sewing machine, but you don't know where to sell your produce, right? I will do 10 shirts, but where do I sell it? Right? So we also come up, we have partners who make sure that the market linkages are done. That's so overall income of the people actually rise. Or in a school, for example, right? What is we say we worked on for example, a high quality projector. But the beauty of the projector was, it was not putting solar powered projector in schools. It has no meaning. What is the content in the projector, right? You just don't do a school because it's a high solar powered projector. We put in high quality 8th, 9th and 10th grade syllabus into it. So instead of using the blackboard, now suddenly the teachers use the white wall where it's projected. So solar helps in leapfrogging technologies. And the beauty, Radha and Janani, is that you really don't care whether it's a remote island or top of a hill. Solar power helps education and health reach where it actually reaches. And so that's the beauty, is that you can combine development, reduction of poverty, and solutions to climate. It's not one versus the other. That's why removing poverty is such a powerful tool, because you get so much solutions for climate climate change.
Wow. So you're actually talking about how you go to people and you figure out the problem first, and how you go through every step of the process, to figure out. And so there must have been some kind of difficulties you faced with the people, maybe while working with the rural areas. And I was wondering if you ever felt like giving up, and like how did you get through that? So,
No, giving up was never an option. See, the thing is that was never an option. I would rather fail in maths or science than give this. See, the question, it's an addiction. It's an addiction because what happens is, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you feel that with all these Google searches, as well as with the PhD degree, you feel so useless that you're not able to solve some of the most simple problems, right? And I tell you, Radha Jani, frustration is the only way to motivate yourself. If you are not frustrated, you will not come up with solutions. You need to be frustrated, saying that why is not that? Okay, why is this problem not getting solved? And the excitement is not only one, it's a great problem, but always come up with 3-4 solutions. I have a water problem, I have a coal cooking problem, I have this, or a road. And telling youngsters, especially in India or elsewhere, that's exactly what Martinez in Dominic Republicly said, right? Why are Indians always complainers, right? So the question is, when you see a road or when you see something leaking, immediately, rather than saying, oh, why is the government not doing it? Think yourself, if you were the government, how would you have solved it? Come up with 5. Suddenly you become a positive frame of mind. So you become a solution. So Janani, the giving up, in a sense, we face, as I tell, we in Selco, we work 6 days a week. Okay. And some of the people come and say, oh, Saturday holiday. I said, we will have Saturday holiday the day poor get Sunday holidays. Okay. We never see a poor man jogging. We never see a poor man saying that I'm overworked. We never say I need a break and I need to go somewhere for a vacation. That's because we take vacation and we only work for 5 days, that the poor are made to work for 7 days, right? And think of a street vendor who's working so much. Does she ever think of giving up? Because no, she does not have a choice. People who give up are people who have choice.
Mm-hmm.
And Radha and Jani, you started. I was thinking when I was 15, would I be like you, even attend a webinar? No, I would I am the most laziest who ran away from things, and I'm so glad that you guys have picked up this mantle, and that shows a lot of hope for the future.
So yeah, you've spoken a lot about so, like memorable moments and like things that happened over the last 20 years. So what are some key lessons that you've learned during this time of Selco?
Key one is um, yeah. Key. I mean, this was fundamental. Let's say, let's not patronize the poor. Where the poor are partners. Whenever you come up with a solution, a poor or an end segment is a partner for you. We're not helping anybody and nobody's asking for help. See, when we raise money or somebody raises money, oh, we need to help. I mean, no, you are basically insulting them, their intellectual capacity, by saying that it's a partnership. Suppose I work with a blacksmith blower. The best person to tell me how a new tool can be designed is a blacksmith himself or herself, right? Make him or her a partner. And the biggest learning from me, I'm telling you, some of the parents would understand, my challenges is how do you break the myths in the Indian middle class and Indian upper middle class thinking process, that let us not confuse between financial poverty and intellectual poverty. We always believe that people who are poor cannot contribute intellectually. And that, I think, is something that I've learned, which I should have known. But more and more when I attend or I speak to the top management of companies, it's always that thinking process that rural people don't know. I mean, I'll tell you, rather than one of the best questions I was asked was, Harish, you have a PhD. Do you actually have discussions in rural areas? So for me, how do you break that thinking? And so I think the sum of that, and the other challenges is, Radha and Jani, never, when you graduate, when you take your future on a certain degree, when you want to go into bachelor's, master's, think of yourself that you're not getting a degree in mechanical engineering. Mechanical engineering is a tool. End of the day, both of you and rest of people, Siddhant, etc., are solution providers. You are all solution providers. You don't care. Like, for example, Radha and Jani, if tomato vendor tomorrow finds tomato prices too high and she can't sell, she's not going to wait at home and say, I'm a tomato seller expert. I'm sorry, I will not sell potatoes. If she does that, her 3 kids will go to starvation. How does she jump and start selling potatoes, right? It's a solution, right? So those are some of the challenges Radha met, is how do you break those silos of thinking, oh, I cannot solve it because I'm an electrical engineer. Oh, I cannot do it, I'm an MBA in finance. So that's, I think, one of the most difficult parts. But don't become silos in your thinking. Yes.
Thank you. That's very insightful.
So it's like really all about the mindset and how you think about it, you know, like you can't say, oh, they don't know, because you know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
When people say they don't understand, I say, have you, that means you said the wrong things.
Yeah. And so there are lots of like young people like Radha and I who are really passionate about climate change and about the kind of work that you're doing. So how can youngsters like us contribute to Selco? And if you could give a word of advice to us on how we can make a difference.
See, the most, I'll start with a little bit of practical one is we get a lot of internships, like, for example, remote internship local. And quite a few, because we are based in Bangalore, we get from Bangalore as well as from Singapore. And what we inculcate into them is, I don't care whether you're an 8th grader or a 10th grader or you're a PhD, you're going to be treated as the same way as any other person in the organization. And we're going to make sure that your confidence of articulating a problem becomes the highest. It's not about solutions, you'll always find out later on, but how are we able to understand the nuances of the problem is what we go through on youngster. But also what we also give a lot of freedom is, you tell us ideas, and we will implement it. I'm not going to think saying that, oh, you're a 10th grader, what solutions will you get? I'm sorry. The moment I say that, I have defeated the purpose of having the young. I am really interested in what's going on in your mind, Radha and Janani, because that's something that I would not have thought about, right? Your fresh thinking is more helpful for me. And how can you contribute? Now, I would say, as long as you don't think too much right now. Read something, what's happening in the world, what are the youngsters doing. As you go 11th, 12th, you're building a base, and use that base to acquire a knowledge, that flexibility that you will not have in the future. Okay, don't go into saying, okay boss, I need to find a solution right now. No, it's like Pythagoras theorem. If you've gone through the Pythagoras theorem, it's not about the am I going to solve a bridge, but just see the history of why the Pythagoras theorem came in and where else can it be utilized. Think of analogies. Okay, set your base right now, fundamental base. uh, don't, I mean, in a sense, it's don't get so, I mean, deep into one thing, but become, and then you start choosing where you actually want to go in the climate. Because what we need you, Radha and Janani, is right now we need you very, very strongly, yes, but we also need you to build your base. I have a very strong 24, 23-year-old Radha and a 23-year-old Janani, which I will be a decision maker. Will be a decision maker, saying that I want to look up to Radha and Janani, boss. Yes, that's it. They have entered the climate change issues. Whether it will be solved, we have hope actually doing that, because Radha is coming and saying that these are 5-6 areas that we need to look at. Janani is very clear. These are the 5-6 areas that we look at. She's already thought about, these are my 20-25-year plan. So start building up that knowledge in a manner that will help you counter people challenges in the future, because you will meet, frankly, Radha and Janani, you will meet more skeptics rather than positive. But hold on. And read some of the most boring stuff that other people will not read right now on carbon offset, finance. Read those, because this is the time you can actually read that. And I'll send you some stuff what some of the other interns have done in Selco, like looking at financial modeling a bit. So you said, like, it's not about like Singapore, very like India, is very structured, unfortunately, in its education system. If you want a solution, you also need to know finance. You also need to know social aspects. You also need to know, it's like, for example, I tell you, you might have the best technologies. In a village, what happened, Janani and Radha, is that we thought we knew how to solve it with that arrogance, right? And then you find somebody and said, no, I'm not going to that house because those are Muslims. I'm not going to that house because those are Hindus. I'm not going to house that because that. How do you handle that? Because those are skills that you're not taught, right? And I think all are as important as climate change. Those issues also need to be considered to come up with the right solution. But every day think of 5 solutions. I'm telling you, every day between you two, can you imagine in a month, sorry, not every day, in a month, if you talk about 2 solutions, in a year you have 24 solutions. By the time you guys are 25, right, multiplied by 10, both of you, between you have 500 solutions. I mean, it can change the world in many ways.
Yeah, thank you so much.
incredibly
Really
helpful because last night I was just sitting, I was like, I need to make a difference. I need to do something. I need to do something, but I don't know where to start.
It will happen.
So,
Don't even think where to start. It'll happen. It's like, it's a marathon. You're not running 100 meters. It's a marathon. Yes. And how do you make it 100 meters dash? Because if all of you are running marathon together, we are solving the climate change issue faster. And so we want you to convince 10 of other Jananis and 10 of other Radhas, right? And that is where the change will happen.
Thank you. So, a lot of us are young in high school planning on going to college. So, what was your experience majoring in energy engineering and IIT, and what major do you recommend for aspiring climate change activists who plan to continue secondary education in college?
Okay, to Radha, I actually learned more in the hostel rather than in the classroom. But so, uh, jokes apart, I think energy was very relatively new when I started, and the beauty of joining energy in 1986 in IIT Kharagpur was they were not yet clear how to define the department. The beauty of that was you had classes in electrical engineering, you had classes in chemical engineering, you had classes in architecture, you had classes. So we basically became, for my Indian friends and counterparts, was a khichdi, right? And so you're not a master of one, but you knew what's happening. So that, I think, helped me a lot, saying that the cross cutting between energy and architecture, the cross cutting between energy and business, the cross cutting between energy and say chemical engineering, is what our thought process today for SDGs is. And as Dr. Divya has mentioned, the best success for climate change is if SDG 7, which is the sustainable energy goal SDG, disappears and it becomes part of each other SDG. See, end of the day, why do I need energy? For better health, better education, removing poverty. So that should be institutionalized within the other SDGs. So, and that I would say is what taught me in that is, but a lot of schools will not have energy, but whatever curriculum you take, Radha, Janni, Siddhant, and all the youngsters, make sure that you are able to blend in with other curriculums also in your third year and a fourth year, sophomore and senior years, so that your thinking is not very structured to one part of the department that you're learning. But if I'm a technology person, I really want to know, like, for example, in technology, what happens is we engineers confuse between affordability and low cost. And what I mean by affordability and low cost is when we make it cheaper and cheaper, we reduce the value for the end user. And if I have a sewing machine, which is highly efficient, and I make it very low cost, I remove 3 or 4 variables, the poor lady is not able to do two extra designs from which she would have earned extra money and paid to the bank. It was a little more expensive, right? So had I had a finance person along with me, I would have designed a better product, right? And so what I mean by just affordability means, suppose Janani and Radha, I ask you, can you buy a Mercedes or a Tesla, or can you buy two Teslas? Oh, it's very expensive. Oh, but I tell you, wait. But I'm going to give you 50 of finance at 0, and you're going to pay just 100 rupees per month. Then suddenly it becomes affordable. So you can actually make a good technology affordable by making good finance. So finance and technology need to go together. It's not one. So from Radha, coming back to your question, what taught me was, how do you become cross-sectoral, like rather than being an expert in one.
Oh, so you think more than just studying one subject, you kind of have to have a more holistic approach to it. Like more than one subject is a combination of many other subjects that come together when you really need to solve a problem. You need to come up with a solution.
It's like anthropologists. Do you know how they think anthropology, right? From a top, saying that what are the pieces of the puzzle can I, at 35,000 foot, when you're on the plane, what you can see, and then at 20,000 feet, what you can see, and 0 feet. So develop your skill sets to see all the three levels.
I see.
So, and then you start seeing that the solutions for yourself. Yeah.
And just one more thing I wanted to ask you before we start off with questions from the audience. What is your opinion on using artificial intelligence for solving climate change problems?
See, what is my my question is, AI or anything, it has to be used as a tool. And today there are fantastic tools in the AI forum, but what is happening, there's a big gap between what the end user or the 3 billion people in the world need. And what I mean by 3 billion people is the people who are in Latin America, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, who are facing most of the brunt of climate change. And even in the, and if you look at the poor in America, and I'm not dividing between the developed and the underdeveloped countries, I'm actually dividing it between the poor and the rich. Like, so that it's a poor as well as in America, Europe, Paris, India, everything is one, and the rich on the other side. If we have to break the practitioner's perspective of what the poor need, those solutions are not very well articulated in a manner that the solutions today that has been designed with data is not fitting into it. Today, for example, in the solar field, immediately we say, oh, these villages in Africa don't have light, so let's go and give them torch lights. Well, the issue is, first somebody should have asked, why do they need lighting for? Is it for income generation? Is it for studying? If somebody asks me for study light, the first question I ask, is there a school? Is there teachers, right? Why do I need the light for? Or why do I need a refrigerator for? Those questions, that data is somewhere missing between a practitioner's perspective to the NGOs, the civil society, to the investors in this field, to the tools that have been created in the AI world. That disconnect needs to happen. AI is saying that I will solve the people of the poor, but my database is from the middle class and the rich, which will make it unfair for the poor.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start off with questions from the audience. So it looks like the first question is from Ishan Shah. What was your major inspiration to do the social work that you did?
As I said, it was, see, for example, your father would know, parents would know. I went to IIT where it was completely subsidized by the government of India. And who paid for the subsidy? It is because the poor bought salt and sugar. That taxes made me to funded my education. So my actual funders are the poor, right? Who did not tell me go to IIT and make money for yourself. But in a typical company, you always look at your shareholders and say, what do they need or what do they want? For me, my shareholders are the poor, right? And so it's just something you always feel like, who paid for my education? And the exciting part of it is that if you look at America and Europe, America especially, why is it a great country? It's a great country because 2 to 3 generations ago, people sacrificed to make it what it is today. Okay.
Yeah.
So even if you say the roads were built by people, the telecom systems where people did not say, I need a degree, I need to go. They basically, if you ask the forefathers of present Americans, they built the country, the constitution, everything else. And it's my responsibility. That led to pieces. Germany, for example, what happened after 1945, World War? People put the pieces, they were completely destroyed. Japan was completely destroyed. They didn't go away. They basically picked up the stuff. Thailand's medical system, everybody says Thailand's medical system is great. Why? Thailand doctors, 30, 40, 50 years ago, they were brought to America, trained, but 90% of them went back and said, I need to create the medical sector for Thailand. And that is why the issue is, we need to stay and say that I'm not telling India is a patriotic or a flag and everything else. For me, the poor are more, for me, the poor of Africa, India, or South America don't make a difference. Poor or poor. And how,
Yeah.
We cannot be under these man-made boundaries. This is Pakistan, this is India, that is Africa. If we have to really truly look at solutions, am I owning that? If I'm spending 8 hours a day, 90% of my 8 hours has to be for creating the systems in society, not for myself. That 1 hour is for eating for myself. That's okay. But the rest 8 hours is what I need to look at for. And I think that's where I think one issue is looking at the structure of IT was one of my frustrations, and saying that it's not a truly inclusive. And same thing what's happening in America today is that is can we make it truly inclusive, and so that we don't have to fight on this color basis, we don't have to base which religion somebody comes from, and does it matter who's the president at any point of time. The question is we need to start making, and climate change and poverty solutions are ones that break both the myths of inclusivity and making sure that climate solutions are solved.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thanks, Vishal.
That was Vishal, yeah. I think the next question is from Dr. Divya. Janani, do you want to read that?
Sure. So it says, do you think our education system is operating from such solution provider approach? If I see B schools, largely they're operating in silos.
The education system is what I mean when Radha and I'll make it is when a professor when a principal of a college or engineering college called us and say, can you bring in social entrepreneurship thought process to our college? We first said that we would first like to interview the professors. Are they fit enough to teach this class, not students? Because if the professors are not sensitive about what a social enterprise is, you're not going to teach the students what they actually require, right? If they are not humble enough to be part of what the ecosystem is, inclusivity in their thought process of what a slum dweller or a what you call it, the blacksmith blower is, then you'll never be able to. You're teaching again in a rote-based system. Yes, there are lots of parts of the Asian education system that needs to change from a rote-based to be a solution-based education system. There is hope, there is change, but I sincerely I'm very happy that people like Radha and Janani will make that difference, will make that happen.
I hope so.
So the next question is from my dad. You have delivered clean energy with very little funding. What would you do if you had unlimited cash, if money and funding was not a hurdle?
I would, frankly speaking, sir, if today, if I had unlimited money, I would actually put into changing the curriculum in a lot of the schools, where you have saying that by 2030, I mean, if you look at 2030, where the SDG goals are going to end or whatever, they're going to come up with a new jargon after that. And that's how UN survives on his new jargon. They have the MDGs and now they have the SDGs, and they'll have some other DGs. Like, hopefully it's not just the diesel generators, but something else. Right? So the question is, I would say one is create multiple of incubation and innovation centers. The true development of America and Europe happened because of vocational schools, and the vocational schools led to creation of hands-on. Just like we have a joke that how many Indians do you actually see in a Home Depot who actually goes and buys a big log and I'm going to work on my pool? You never see much Indians going to say we all go to Home Depot to buy a bulb or something else, but not anything more than that.
Yeah.
So the question, how do we become hands-on in our approach? I would put into creating, at least in India, 400 to 500 centers of innovation and incubation in rural areas, modeled after the German vocational schools, where you put in enormous amount of resources for failure money. You go out and fail, because we don't risk failure and we don't celebrate failures. The whole IT sector in California succeeded because you respected and you celebrated failures. We need to celebrate failures. We have centers of incubation and innovation for climate and sustainable energy. And there are 10,000 ITIs. Can we convert some part of it and create three types of capital: R&D money, so that people can experiment with a rice mill or a thresher or a blacksmith blower, the livelihoods that the poor use, or a dental chair or something else. Put money into enterprises, because who gets the equity? It's the English speaking people who get the equity, whether it's India or Africa. We need to create local enterprises that will succeed in pushing. And number three is end user financing. We all buy a house because somebody gave us loan at cheap interest rate for long periods of time. Long-term financing becomes a key for India. So if I had unlimited capital, these are the three legs of the stool for true sustainable development that I would actually put in capital for.
Okay.
Incredible. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Yeah, we have some from the Google form.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, where do you believe India is headed in the field of renewable energy? Can we expect to see a major shift in the energy and transportation sector anytime soon?
I think, India for me is a paradox of an overdeveloped and a very underdeveloped country. We have the most number of poor people in the world, and we have some of the richest people in the world staying there. It's a paradox, right? If you look at Human Development Index, parts of Orissa or Jharkhand is below South Sudan. So let's be realistic. When we talk, I mean, when people say, oh, I'm growing, we are the second largest economy in the world, we also have our problems. So I think India is in a right position to be the true R&D of solutions of sustainability for rest of the world, because Africa is 5 steps behind, Latin America is a couple of steps behind, Southeast Asia is a step behind. India, because of its geography, for example, floods in Assam, drought in Madhya Pradesh, tribal rights in Odisha, we have a plethora of world's problem, microcosm. So that means we can also be a world's solution. If I want to look at solving Philippines floods or typhoons, I can use Assam as an R&D center to solve Philippines. And obviously I'll change it according to the cultural context of Philippines. But India, I see as a hope of becoming that R&D center for poverty alleviation and sustainable energy. And rather, the question that the audience asked, renewable energy is not only about, while we have a huge target of X number of solar panels, see, rather sustainability for people should not mean that just because, suppose I put 1,000 solar panels on top of your roof, doesn't give you the freedom to put 150 air conditioners. See, the sustainability is a combination of efficiency, consumption, and then solar. That's how solutions can come up. So India could be in that great way of frugal innovation in terms of how do you come up with a new dental chair? You know, when a dental chair is designed, you have 150 features. Because it has 150 features, you put in a large hospital because it needs power. Then even if you gave dental services free, it's actually not free for the poor, because they have to spend 2 days, the bus charge and loss of labor. It is too expensive just to fix a tooth, right? Or an eye care. If somebody had designed a dental chair with only 4 features, foldable, DC powered, we would have given dental services right at the doorstep, how remote a poor is, and he would have paid for it because he was spending 200 rupees for bus. He would now pay 30 rupees for you, right? So think of solar energy to democratize. It democratizes health. It democratizes and education. It's like a projector. I now don't care where the kid is, how remote it is. I can deliver content. So that's the beauty of climate solutions, is that it makes it truly inclusive. And that's where I think India can be that solution into the world, because it's between America and Africa, but it has the largest problems of poverty and climate issues. So it can definitely be the hotbed of solutions.
Thank you. That was really insightful.
Over here we have a last question from Siddhant. It says, in the renewable energy field worldwide, in your opinion, do you believe that government or private intervention would work better?
For example, one thing that you learn from countries like Europe, countries in Europe, like Scandinavian countries or America, like education. America is not a good example for health, but if you look at health and education is something that needs to be looked at. If I have a healthy, learned citizen, will contribute more positively for the country or a region, whatever you define it. I think that is something that governments need to play a role, very strong role. And in the other role, the small and medium enterprises will play that extremely decentralized fashion, will play a role. It all depends. Like, for example, if I have to run a rice mill, I will go toward a small enterprise. I've had a bunch of rice mills. So where economics actually works out, you definitely, a private enterprise can actually work. But if I need to look at a cold storage, Radha Janani and Siddharth, a cold storage is like, think about it in simple terms, like road, right? Road, who pays for the road? Road is subsidized for us by the government. Because the road was laid out, the airports never make money. Because we fly, we contribute for the economy one way or the other. Who builds the roads and who builds the airports? Just like large economic, like the cold storage has to be built so that the poor then pay for the services. And that's how you get poverty up one way or the other, right? So that's where renewable energy should actually go towards. How do you make sure that the poor start owning assets and using climate change solutions to get people multiple levels out of poverty?
So that was really interesting. Thank you so much for all the knowledge you've given us. So now we'd like to present our projects. So I'm just going to screen share. Oh, Manu, can you enable?
Yes, I will. Just one second. Harish, I know we had you till 11 a.m. your time. Would you be kind enough to give us?
Oh, sure. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And before Radha, you do screen share, there's a question from Shripati uncle.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
We'll just have that as the final question. You are blowing our minds away, so people keep on pouring in more questions. There is one on how many villages in India are benefiting from Selco solutions right now? And where do you foresee this in the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, we basically, Selco is working in directly quite a bit in Karnataka and Maharashtra, most of the districts in Karnataka. But with the foundation mostly works in Odisha, Jharkhand, and Manipur, Assam, and Meghalaya in the Northeast, where we are basically saying that we have the foundation which looks at innovations in health and livelihoods, but we also have an incubation center which basically incubates vernacular speakers, purely vernacular speakers, who we put in innovation money. And we also now have a fund which is an investment fund, and the criteria is that you need to be a vernacular speaker. That should be a first that we would invest in. And so that's our focus is, and fortunately for us, our investors has basically given us money to fail, and we said we will, and that's the best way to succeed is, and so two parts. Selco as a for-profit works mostly in Karnataka and Maharashtra. The foundation builds the ecosystem for in the Jharkhand, Odisha, little bit of Bihar, as well as the Northeast is a major focus. And we have a innovation center now in Guwahati, in Assam, basically looking at how do we make Northeast, which is a population of 45 million, a kind of a hotbed of solutions that Tanzania can replicate, or Sierra Leone can replicate, or Brazil can replicate, because the Manipur issues of financing is very similar to what Tanzania faces. The upper Assam floods are equivalent to what Philippines actually faces. The Meghalayan tribal community is what the Togo tribal community actually faces. So how do we use the 45 million people as a in a manner where we develop Northeast as well as parts of Africa?
Fantastic.
Wow.
Radha, please go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about that question.
I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
So I'm just gonna screen share now. This is SDG Forum. This is a platform I created to spread awareness about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So this is what the website looks like. And here we have trending channels. You can follow all the channels. And then we have some videos and featured providers. So next we can go into the profile. I'm just going to go to content. And this is what the profile looks like. So as you can see, these are all my posts.
Very nice.
You can create a post by clicking here, create. You can create a smart card or a pathway. A pathway is just a bunch of smart cards to create a course or anything like that. So yeah, you can upload a link. You can, so you can upload a file and a poll and a quiz. Recently, we had our first quiz uploaded by Dr. Divya, and then so you can mostly. I actually haven't used the quiz feature yet. I'm going to do that soon. This is one of my posts, Footprints by Janani. This is her Chrome extension. So now I'll hand it over to Janani to explain that.
I'm going to display screen share.
Yeah, I will. 1 second.
Yeah. Okay, so I actually created this extension with the help of Manu, but it helps you track your carbon footprint from your commutes. So for example, here we see that suppose you're taking a flight from New Delhi to Los Angeles. So it'll kind of show you your carbon footprint and how you can offset it, like how many trees you can plant to offset it.
Should I click on it, Johnny?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Excellent.
So it shows you the amount of carbon dioxide, the year's worth of a home's energy use, pounds of coal burn, and how many trees you can actually plant to offset your carbon footprint. Because I think that what everybody does makes a difference. For example, if 1,000 people start like becoming mindful of their commutes, then the the emissions that we put out into the air will significantly decrease.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Very nice. Very excellent, Radha and Jani. And
Thank you.
very good. I mean, this is a good, very good. And also what you can do is some, as you develop over the time, you can also put up a small videos about what has happened is, in solar power or in sustainability, people have a myth that it only can provide for lighting, or is it for the rich countries, right? You start breaking that myth that it can actually run a rice mill, or it actually can run a millet making mill. So suddenly people start, those small, you can always find on the net, take permissions and say, suppose a 15-year-old kid in Don Bosco in Tanzania is looking at it at your site. Suddenly he can tell his uncle who is in the village, said, I saw that, right? See, now use your power of being 15-year-olds to 20-year-olds to be that. See, in America, you might not have your uncle working in the farm, but definitely your counterpart whom will relate to you